Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to The Sweat. I'm your host, Jessie Coffield. And if this time is a little grim for you, the holidays are over, blah, blah, blah. Well, we have a treat for you, a showdown preview. We got DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler and the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels here. So guys, Sunday's first wildcard game, Vikings at Saints. Now, before we get into your picks for the showdown contest, just a reminder that DraftKings has introduced some new achievements for this NFL playoff season. So one of those is the Captain Pay Dirt achievement, which awards you for having the highest scoring captain drafted in a showdown contest. So that's an easy transition. Which captain in the Vikings Saints contest will help you reach this achievement, Jeff?
I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins. It's a little bit of a pivot off of what should be two very chalky plays, and Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas on the Saints. I think that's obvious, but I like going Cousins here for multiple reasons. I mean, look, he has not been a great road quarterback, but the thing is he has been a lot better when they've been in domes. It's been more of an outdoor issue, going outdoors just for whatever reason. This Vikings offense has never really produced that well. He put up big numbers earlier in the year in a place like Detroit. And again, New Orleans has a solid run defense, they have a solid defensive line, but they have given up multiple big games to opposing quarterbacks this season. We saw Deshaun Watson, among others, put up over 250 yards and multiple passing touchdowns. I feel like with the Vikings, Adam Thielen back to full strength here, they're really going to be able to take advantage of that matchup. I feel like Kirk Cousins probably isn't going to be enough to do enough to allow the Vikings to win this game, but for fantasy purposes, I think he's going to be one of the top three players from the slate, and I could easily see him being the tournament pivot that pays off at the captain.
Reed, I have to go to you next just because of the faces you were making when Jeff said Kirk Cousins.
Well, there's a lot of lights in our studio here, and I just couldn't look away from that rock that's on your finger, Miss Coffield. Oh, sorry. I knew you were positioning it there for a reason. Hey, there it is.
This thing?
I was blinded by it. Congratulations, Jessie Coffield.
Thanks.
On the engagement. But going back to the I guess you could say more pressing question. It's Kirk Cousins is I get the game script is going to be Kirk Cousins and stacking up and loading up on Vikings. I mean, the Saints are favored by close to 9 points in this one, and that's a feasible option. But Mike Thomas is like a free space. I mean, you got to go with him. I mean, especially in this matchup. I mean, the matchup doesn't get better for Mike Thomas getting Xavier Rhodes, who's allowed 85% of the targets that have been thrown to him to be caught by the receivers that he's guarding. And Mike Thomas is, again, he is that Christian McCaffrey for receivers. We see this guy get so many targets. I know he's nursing a little bit of a hand or a wrist injury there, but I mean, he's going to be 60 to 70% owned in this as a captain, or maybe less, but still, I mean, if he goes off and you don't have him on your team and you're not getting that multiplier, it's going to be tough to come back from. So Mike Thomas for me.
Rosalie, who is your captain?
I have to give it up to your new fiance. That rock is beautiful. Good job.
He did a good job. He did, I will say.
Good job. He can get the captain spot. But if
Yes.
I have to go with somebody else, I'm definitely go. I agree with Reed. How do you not go Michael Thomas here? Yeah, he's going to be chalky, but you're going to be the one left in the dust when he scores a lot of points. When you look at what he's done over the season, he's been number one in receptions, in targets, and yards, not by a little, but by a lot, by a huge ton. And he's fourth in touchdowns on the season. So you can't go away from him. The opportunity is too great. He has 6 games with over 30 fantasy points this season, and a lot more that are close to that 30 points, including a game against a really good San Francisco defense. Now, Minnesota at home against the wide receiver, pretty good, but on the road, they give up over 44 points to the wide receiver position. And on the New Orleans Saints, that is Michael Thomas. They don't really have a wide receiver 2. They don't really have a wide receiver 3. They do have a little bit of a tight end at this point. But yeah, I like Michael Thomas. It's just hard to move away from him, even at the price point in this game.
Okay, so Reed, who are you going to be stacking with Michael Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is Drew Brees, but I'm going Jared Cook. I know Minnesota, and this is sort of what Jeff was saying about his Kirk Cousins pick. It's a little contrarian, and the Vikings, while they struggle with receivers or against receivers, they don't struggle against tight ends. But Jared Cook and the Saints, have really been going against trends of teams trying to defend their pass catchers. Rosalie just mentioned it. Their second receiver or their second pass catcher playmaker is a split between Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Latavius Murray. So Jared Cook, and we've seen him in spots. We've seen the Saints and Jared Cook in spots against a Carolina team, for instance, who is really good at defending the tight ends, get a touchdown. We've seen his ceiling game where he went 2 catches for 2 touchdowns. Drew Brees, although he has a bevy of pass catchers to throw to, and though he's looking at Mike Thomas a lot, Jared Cook against his Minnesota Vikings team could get in the end zone as a contrarian play to stack if it's not Drew Brees.
All right, Rosalie, what about you? Who are you pairing with Michael Thomas?
I agree with Breeze. You could go away from Breeze, but I don't want to. I don't want to. You know what? I would like to go contrarian in some of those other positions. Here with this game, again, I feel the Saints marching, right? The Saints are marching in right now, and they're just moving. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game for the Saints, and I want a piece of that Drew Brees action. He's been fantastic over the past few weeks. So if I'm going to go contrarian, I'm going to go contrarian in some of those other pieces, but I'm definitely stacking Drew Brees. It's the number 2 overall offense, DVOA, and Drew Brees is at the helm of that. So you have to stack it.
All right, Jeff, who are you pairing with your captain, Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going with Kirk Cousins, obviously I got to pair him with one of these receivers. And I mentioned Adam Thielen already. I do feel like this is going to be a really good spot to deploy him, especially in the showdown slates, because obviously it's hard to find, depressed ownership. But I do feel like Thielen is probably going to be lower owned than he should be. I mean, people are scared. The only game he played after he came back from the hamstring injury, he didn't even catch a pass, and then he took a week off. It's not encouraging just from a recent form standpoint, but everything he said is that he's 100% now. He got game flowed out of seeing targets, and then he took a week off. I think people are probably going to overreact to that. Adam Thielen is not going to get Marcus Lattimore, in most situations in this game. He's going to be outside on Stephon Diggs. And I really feel like Eli Apple, PJ Williams, whoever ends up covering Adam Thielen, Thielen can win that matchup. I feel like the Vikings have a shot at keeping this close. Adam Thielen is going to go off. And I definitely like pairing with Kirk Cousins if you're crazy enough like me to put him in your cap.
Jeff's a special kind of crazy. All right. Well, we know we have to spend up for our captain's pick, so where can we find some value here, Rosalie?
I guess I'm going all Saints here, right? I go to New Orleans and suddenly I'm a Saints fan. I'm going Taysom Hill. I love this guy. He is so fun, right? And you know that Sean Payton in playoff situations, when it comes down to those things, remember, this is the coach that did an onside kick during the Super Bowl the last time he was in it to start the second half. There's going to be trickery here. And trickery's name is Taysom Hill, 2K. 45-yard receiving touchdown in the win against the Panthers. I think we're going to see some touchdown out of Taysom Hill this week as well.
All right, Jeff, talk to me about value.
There's going to be some tomfoolery in this game. I agree. I don't mind the Taysom Hill pick. I'd rather go to Tre'Quan Smith. Look, I feel like, again, people might just overlook this, but Tre'Quan Smith has outsnapped Ted Ginn over the last 4 weeks of the year. He's not a high volume target guy, but Reed mentioned the matchup here against the Vikings secondary. I really like the secondary options here on New Orleans in this game. It doesn't mean I don't like Michael Thomas. Obviously, you got to get some exposure to some of these big names too, but Tre'Quan Smith, Jared Cook, these are guys who could easily show up here with big games. 3 touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games coming into this matchup. Again, he's going to see, it doesn't even really matter who he sees in the Minnesota secondary, to be honest, because no one has been that good. Even if he sees Xavier Rhodes, it's a matchup I think he could win downfield. So I really like Tre'Quan Smith in this matchup. I feel like it's someone on New Orleans, not Michael Thomas, is probably going to have a big game.
All right, Reed, value, please.
Yes, there's going to be some skullduggery in this matchup, or shenanigans, Jeffrey.
Skullduggery.
Yeah, that's right. That's an old word, man. Irv Smith, I almost forgot my train of thought there. Irv Smith Jr. is going to be my value play. Again, both of these teams are, they defend the tight end very well. So these are a little bit contrarian plays because you have to find somewhere where you're going to find value, like Jeff was just mentioning. But if you look at the Vikings position by position, it's not going to be Adam Thielen, it's not going to be Stephon Diggs and these guys. the Kirk Cousins passes to his tight ends quite a bit, 45% a couple weeks ago in terms of just that positional target share, and that's tops in the league. That's really close to the top, if not the actual top, in terms of how many times a quarterback targets their tight end. If you just look over the past couple of games, we've seen the Saints give up points, give up touchdowns to the tight end. So Irv Smith at $1,400, I believe, is a value that I'm going to, probably the lowest.
Okay, any super value, like I'm talking under $1,000 worth using, Jeff?
Literally no, not in this game.
Okay.
I mean, there just isn't. Like, it's just the way this showdown slate breaks out. Even like the lower owned guys on New Orleans, like Smith and Cook, and even like Ted Ginn, they're all over 1,000. So there's no one I'd even touch under 1K in this game.
Okay, I mean, anybody read? Like, anybody?
No. Bueller? No. You're going to have to potentially forecast an injury happening to, 2 or 3 of the Vikings running backs, maybe to play C.J. Ham. That's not going to happen. So just stay away. Don't go too far. Like I said, Irv Smith is the lowest guy I'm going to be owning.
Rosalie, do you agree with these guys? You're just out?
Yeah, I mean, I think even Ham was like 1,200. I don't even think he goes under 1,000.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. I looked at it. Deontay Harris, take a dart throw on any New Orleans wide receiver, or he's had a good amount of targets, but I'd only do it if I had $900 left in a spot, which I don't know that I will. So no, I don't like any of these guys.
All right, finally, this one we should have some answers for. Who are you totally fading in this Vikings-Saints contest, Reed?
Adam Thielen. I know Jeff likes him as his contrarian play, and if you want to find low ownership on something here on the slate, it's this guy who has, we've seen his ceiling, we've seen how well he's done, we've seen his talent, but it just doesn't look right currently right now. And if you just look, Lattimore is going to be shadowing Stephon Diggs, so that is a contrarian play, but Stephon Diggs is that ceiling guy. I'd rather go to him up against Lattimore, even though Lattimore is essentially shutting down these wide receivers. I'm just not confident Adam Thielen is just there yet, so I'm going to be fading him.
Rosalie, who are you fading?
Yeah, I agree with Reed. I'm fading Thielen as well. We're all against you, Jeff, apparently.
Duh.
Yeah, sorry.
It's the story of my life. It's okay. Used to it.
It's just, where have his targets gone? I mean, I know he's been injured, but even in the games that he's played, out of the 10 games he's played, most targets that he's had was 8 in 3 of those, and it wasn't very effective. Reed spoke to his ceiling. We haven't seen his ceiling, and maybe that's why he goes off this game. But at 7,400, I think there are better options for you. So I'm fading Thielen. I love the guy, and I hate doing it, but I'm fading him.
Jeff, who are you fading?
I can't wait now to celebrate the Adam Thielen 40-point fantasy game that's coming. I'm going to go a little bit braver here. I'm going to fade Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook could pay off in the spot, but I don't think it's going to be, if he does, I don't think it's going to be because he rushes for a bunch of yards. This is a player who hasn't rushed for over 100 yards since week 7, and he's going up against, essentially a top 5 rush defense. New Orleans allowed 91 rush yards per game in the regular season. They're, as far as running back fantasy points, they're, top 5 team in limiting the opposing running back as well. So if Cook is going off here, it's because he probably saw like 11 targets, and that is actually a possible scenario. So again, he's not a player, if you're making like 100 showdown lineups or something crazy like that, they should probably completely fade. But I would be well underweight here. You also have the injury concerns. Madison is going to be back for this game as well. So if something does flare up with Cook's shoulder, you could see more Madison. Amir Abdullah even showed well in the last couple games. So I'm not really in on Cook. I just feel like you got to pay up for like Kamara and Thomas anyways. So Cook is an obvious fade candidate for me.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Stick around. Right now, we got a KFC showdown of the Seattle-Philly game.
Final game of Wild Card Weekend is here. Seahawks at the East champion Eagles, and if you like talking birds, you've come to the right place. This is the Sunday Showdown series presented by KFC. Adam Kaufman, Reed Fowler, and this matchup will obviously feature some poultry in motion, Reed. Yeah, I know. So give us your Colonel's pick.
Yeah, it's going to be Carson Wentz. This guy has been amazing in the month of December. 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's completed 30 passes in 3 of his last 4 games to a virtual who's who at receiver. He really doesn't have anyone there. We like Dallas Goedert. We like some of the pieces there, but this entire Philadelphia team has been injured. But the home team getting the points there. Give me Carson Wentz.
Anyone else you're taking a flyer on?
Yeah, absolutely. Dallas Goedert. I just mentioned him. When you look at tight ends, you like to pair them up and stack them with your quarterback. And look at Seattle. They're second. They're giving up the second most DK fantasy points two opposing tight ends. The guy only has one less touchdown than Zach Ertz, and close to, I would say, 40 to 50 less targets on the season. So get Dallas Goedert in, because if Ertz can't go, he's your guy.
All right, it's going to do it for the latest edition of the Sunday Series. KFC's famous bowls now just $3. That's a whole pound of delicious KFC classics for only $3. I repeat, an entire pound of food, $3. KFC, it's finger looking good.
Tennessee at New England. New England favored by 4.5 at home. 43.5 is the over-under. In this one, Tim, will start with you after you proclaim that the Patriots are definitely coming back and winning this game. They lost to the Miami Dolphins. You made New England your Super Bowl pick halfway through the year when your other Super Bowl pick featured two teams that were below 500. So you decided to go on to the Patriots, and they've had some rough goes, but you're finally using the curse to your advantage. I appreciate that. And you've already predicted that they're going to win this game 42-10.
Yes, I think they crushed Tennessee. And we all know that is what's going to happen. I mean, come on, we do. I mean, the Patriots are not going out this way. This is not the time yet. They still have some fight left. And I think the Titans are going to be a very, very trendy pick. I think this line is too short. The Patriots and DVOA are still the third best team in the NFL. Like, there's an incredible amount of value on them to win the Super Bowl. Plus 1,200. That is silly for them to be that long. You should be jumping all over that.
Have you jumped all over that?
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying you are getting crazy odds for a team that by the numbers is better than everyone not named San Francisco and Baltimore. So it might be worthwhile to consider that. In this game, I mean, the Titans are a good team. The Titans are a very good team, but their best strength is Henry, and we have seen throughout history in the playoffs that defenses can, in fact, bottle up great running backs. We saw it happen for years to Barry Sanders. We've seen it, innumerable amounts of times where smart defenses know, okay, if I just take away this central cog, I'm going to compel a middle-of-the-road quarterback with really one dangerous receiver to beat me. The Patriots still have a fantastic defense. I expect Tannehill in his first playoff game, so that another one leans against the Titans, right? You suspect Tannehill could turn the ball over once or twice. That's a terribly tough place to play football, and Tannehill knows it. He's been there many times, and he's never won there. So, yeah, I think that the spot is too big for the Titans. It's commendable that they made the playoffs and a great run, but I think there's tremendous value on the Patriots, and you should play them. They're the second part of a 14 money line parlay, but I like them against the number. I like them straight up. The Patriots will be in the middle of all of my picks this week. I really think they take care of business.
Like I said, Tim is doing his best to really curse out Tom Brady from the playoffs. I'm going to take Tennessee plus 4.5. Tim's right about shutting down great running backs and Bill Belichick, take away your best player. But something happened last week, which I thought that was really telling, that Gilmore has been so good all year. Maybe it's just a 1 week blip. But Devontae Parker kind of manhandled him, which I was really surprised about. And Fitzpatrick was able to use his mobility to pick up some first down. So, and then later on in the game, they still weren't able to run the ball because the Dolphins can't run the ball. But the fact that the physicality of Devontae Parker, being a huge receiver, was really able to get to Gilmore, I think A.J. Brown can kind of do the same thing, that even if they bottle up Henry, they might have some outs with Tannehill being a mobile quarterback to an extent, much like Fitzpatrick is. He can pull it down, rush for a first down. Then you have this giant guy on the outside. They have a lot of athleticism on offense, and I think that might give the Patriots some problems here. Like, the last time the Patriots didn't have a bye was that Ray Rice game in 2009, and he has absolutely murked them on the ground. Like, this Patriots team doesn't look very good. I know that when it comes down to it, a lot of people are just going to side, like with what Tim said, that the Patriots are the Patriots. They're going to win this game. Tennessee's going to be the trendy pick, but I don't know if they're going to be the trendy pick. I think a lot of people will just revert back to the Patriots make the Super Bowl every year. Of course, they're going to win this game. I just don't think they're that good. I really don't.
They aren't very good. They're
So I'm going to take Tennessee. I mean, it would be shocking to me if the Patriots won this game by like 20 points. If they win, it's probably a field goal game.
Wildcard weekend is upon us. 2 games Saturday, 2 Sunday, but just one Levitan's leverage. Adam Kaufman, Adam Levitan. It's a new year, so it is time for Levy to give us 3 new players he's excited about this weekend. Levy, here we go. Drew Brees, second highest priced QB, 6,600. His Saints, of course, are hosting the Vikings. Now, the NFL's career leader in regular season touchdown passes. He wrapped up the year with 23 total TDs his last 7 games, only the 1 interception. New Orleans' last 2 postseasons, heartbreaking. So why will this one be different for Brees?
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect spot for Drew Brees. He plays so much better at home, and really the way you want to play against the Vikings to throw the ball a ton. I mean, Xavier Rhodes is past his prime, and the rest of the secondary has had so many miscommunications all year, resulting in big plays. So I think we'll see a pass-centric game plan from the Saints, and the Vikings personnel just does not match up well at all with Kamara out of the backfield and with Michael Thomas and with Jared Cook, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm pretty confident that Drew Brees will be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate.
Let's stay in the NFC. Seahawks at the Eagles. DK Metcalf, 6,100, fresh off a 12-target, 20-point game. The guy's also built like an Adonis. But I'm guessing that last part is not why you're fixated on him this weekend. So what is it?
Yeah, I mean, DK Metcalf has had a huge role all year, playing every snap, running extremely deep routes, and Russell Wilson just so efficient, especially from a touchdown perspective. So to get DK Metcalf in a matchup against an Eagles secondary, I mean, the Eagles just are such a huge funnel. They play so well against the run, and especially with, Marshawn Lynch and Travis Homer at running back for the Seahawks. The game plan should be to unleash Russell Wilson for 35, 40 attempts here, and DK Metcalf just a big-time playmaker.
All right, Bills in Houston trying to win their first playoff game in 25 years. Devin Singletary, 6K, which puts him in the top 5 among running backs. So is this just matchup motivation against a lousy run D, or is it something else?
Well, we've seen a role change for Devin Singletary lately. Starting in Week 16, he played every snap except for 2. Frank Gore played just 2 snaps. And then in Week 17, when the game didn't mean anything, Devin Singletary rests. Frank Gore plays the entire first half. So I think we can say with a pretty good bit of confidence that Devin Singletary is really likely to play 100% of the snaps in this game on Saturday. And you can't really say that for many running backs. You can't say that for many running backs on this slate. So, yeah, Devin Singletary has 100% of the snaps, talented guy, and in what I think will be a higher scoring game than other people do. I think Devin Singletary makes a lot of sense.
You going for a joyride now that we're done here?
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, joyride.
Well, I don't know. I see the bike behind you.
Oh, yeah. Well, bike's not fully put together. It's kind of like the truck I used to have back there.
You used to. I worry what happened to that giant box. Levitan's leverage. Thanks, bud.
All right. Good luck.
2 hockey guys are joining the program right now. DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and Awesemo.com's Chris Wassel. Need you both to choose between these 2 options for tonight's 2-game NHL slate, aka NHL opening faceoff. All right, Tyler Seguin is the highest priced center on this short 2-game slate at $7K against Detroit. Jeff, do you pay up for him or go with someone like Washington's Nicholas Backstrom at $6,200?
I think you should probably just pay up for Sagan in this game. I know it's tempting always to go off the chalk in a two-game night, but I really feel like you got to get some kind of piece of the studs from Dallas. And you don't have necessarily have to roster the whole first line. Maybe take Sagan and then a couple, you stack the second line or something. But, just looking realistically at these matchups, Carolina, Washington, you have 2 really good teams defensively, essentially. I mean, Carolina is the top team in terms of penalty kill, shots allowed, and stuff like that. And Backstrom, if he does get on the board tonight, it seems highly unlikely that it's going to be like a multiple point night. Whereas Sagan going up against the Red Wings, I mean, Dallas is, they're like minus 300 or better favorites here right now, which is kind of, you don't see that very often in hockey. Tyler Sagan, Dallas playing pretty well. I would just pay up for Sagan, like I said, and try and diversify elsewhere.
Chris, what do you think?
It's tough. I mean, as much as I'm tempted to take Backstrom just because, look, Washington and Carolina average a lot of goals when they play each other. It's like they have Southeast Division flashbacks or something. Last 4 meetings, as a matter of fact, they've averaged over 7 goals a game combined, as crazy as this will sound. And Backstrom in those games does have 6 points. That being said, though, tonight's a little bit different because, look, Dallas is going up against one of the worst penalty kills in the league in Detroit. Only Winnipeg's is worse. And Detroit's road penalty kill is approaching 70% and dropping. So If this is a night to get Dallas's power play going, I don't know what other night it could be. And you can get a little bit creative. The Klingberg injury actually helps you a little bit because you can slide down a little further and say if you want to pair Sagan with one of Dallas's lower price defensemen, you can do that. You can go and take a look at a Denis Gurianov who has points in 4 of his last 5 games and is pretty cheap as well on the roster. So there are options to differentiate your lineup tonight, even if you spend up.
All right, on the wing, Carolina's Teuvo Teravainen is coming off a 20-plus fantasy point performance and is $6K tonight against the Capitals. Chris, do you like his matchup, or would you go down a couple $100 and look at Detroit's Tyler Bertuzzi at $5,700? Or, I mean, do you just suck it up and pay for Ovechkin on a short slate?
As much as I love to pay up for Ovechkin tonight, I've got to save some money somewhere here. And you know what? Teravainen's not a half-bad option. Again, like I've said to people, Washington's middle of their defense is very suspect. It always has been. It always will be. And in these matchups, for some reason, guys like Teravainen and Aho do excel well enough against Washington to merit playing him. And at $6,000, that's not a bad price.
All right, Jeff, what do you think? Would you pay up for Ovechkin, or do you need to save the cash?
I mean, I don't think paying up for Ovechkin is like a bad strategy or anything. Obviously, you're going to need to save elsewhere. So I can get behind that. I think maybe starting even with Ovechkin and Sagan, and then just trying to, maybe stacking like a second or third line somewhere in a GPP. I think that makes some sense tonight. Definitely just targeting these studs and hoping they pay off. But as far as Teravainen versus Bertuzzi, I get the interest in Bertuzzi here on a short slate again, but his upside, like he's averaging only 2 shots per game, even as a first liner. Even when he does score, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get like a big 20, 25 plus point night. He's just not really that type of player, and Detroit's not really that type of offense. So I agree with Chris. Teravainen to me between these two would be the play. I think if you're going to target anyone on Detroit as far as wingers go, I'd go down to Robbie Fabry, who's been bumped up in terms of minutes and playing on the first line right now with injuries. So I do like Teravainen, though. I like the Carolina line 1 there. Like him and Aho could definitely be a good combo. So give me Teravainen between these two anyways.
All right, the top 2 priced defensemen on the slate are Washington's John Carlson at $6,400 and Carolina's Dougie Hamilton at $6,200. Jeff, are you choosing between the guys, or can you take a chance on a 2-game slate by starting both of them?
Yeah, again, I mean, this is kind of where the strategy on a 2-game slate like this comes in. I mean, you have Sagan and Ovechkin, to deal with. Do you roster both of them, or do you pay down a little bit and roster both these stud defensemen? I would probably lean towards the defenseman. I know it's not really the greatest spot. If I was choosing between these two, I would go with Hamilton. He's just been the more consistent player of late. I know Carlson got off to that insanely hot start, and it's not like the upside is any better on Hamilton. Obviously, Carlson can get it done too, but Dougie Hamilton, everything is there as far as block shots. He could get you the double bonus night as well. And look, Carolina is our small home favorites here. I like the goaltending matchup here. Samsonov looks like he's going to start, so I don't mind that either. I do think that if you're going to go with one of these players, pairing them with Miro Heiskanen isn't a bad idea either, obviously against that terrible Detroit power play. So give me Hamilton between these two, but using both of them isn't the worst idea tonight either.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a couple good options here tonight. You can go with the 2 studs. You can double up, maybe even go say Hamilton, Pesci, just and that's under $10,000 still on DK combined. There's lots of ways to go that you wouldn't be able to go on even a medium or larger slate. So, do get creative. Don't go crazy, but you can get creative enough on a slate like this. If you go double defensive stack. I do recommend going back, say, like to the Fabbris of the world and Gurianovs and start, stacking for value at least, because there are options. It's just you're going to have to dig a little deeper to find them.
Well, tiny slate. So who are you looking at in goal tonight, Chris?
Well, let's see. All right, let's see. Dallas is playing Detroit, and Bishop looks like the Bishop that I've seen before. It's horrible. I mean, it's painful to sit there and look, but it's either Bishop or you go kind of just way off the board and pray like anything that Mrazek doesn't like revert back to what the up and down yo-yo nature of his last 10 to 15 starts have been.
All right, Jeff, what about you? Who are you looking at between the pipes?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I was creating a cash game lineup, it would be pretty tough for me to consider anyone else other than Ben Bishop. Samsonov has played well, but again, like you're heading into Carolina, that's a really tough matchup. I think Mazurek is okay for GPPs. Chris is right. Like, he's very up and down. You could get like a -point night here. You could get like a 30 save night. He is coming off a good performance. But again, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And really, what other options do we have? Because there's no way you're playing anyone from Detroit. So Bishop's pretty much cash game lock. Mazurek for me would be the GPP pivot.
All right, slate approved pick time. Who is your lock on tonight's 2-game NHL slate? Jeff, start us off.
Yeah, I'll go with Sebastian Aho. Again, I do kind of like this matchup a little bit, especially more from the Carolina side. Aho's been solid. He's shooting the puck a little bit more over his last 10 games, averaging over 3 shots per game. 2 goals in his last 3 games. I think he's a good upside play. He's someone I definitely want exposure to.
Chris, slate approved pick, please.
Hope I'm right with this. Tyler Seguin just firing shots at will against one of the worst defenses in the league gets me going a little bit, and is worth a shot tonight as my lock on the 2-game slate.
Lock it in. All right, thank you guys. Sit tight. We'll be back after a sportsbook preview of the Seahawks-Eagles wildcard game.
Hey, I'm Adam Kaufman. He is Reed Fowler. We're here from DraftKings and want to help you out with some betting angles for this weekend's wildcard matchup between Seattle and Philadelphia, thanks, of course, to the DK Sportsbook. Seahawks, they are the only road favorite wildcard weekend. How about that? Of the 4 games, favored by just 2 in Philly. But Eagles have played some of their best football last couple weeks. They've won 4 straight as well, Reed. Can they cover this spread?
I think they can.
2 points?
I think they can. Like earlier in the week, I was on Seattle. It was really weird, right? You get a Seattle team that looks better. They're 11-5. Now they're just kind of limping in into the playoffs. So both of these teams have a ton of injuries on both sides. Seattle losing their entire backfield. We know at Philadelphia with their pass catchers, they should get some back this week. But if you look at Carson Wentz, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception in the month of December. Last time these teams met, he turned the ball over 5 times, which was a career high for him in a single game. So you look at Philadelphia and what they've done in the playoffs. Give me Philadelphia to cover here.
What are we thinking as far as points for this one? The game total, it's set at 45, so over or under?
Give me the under. I mean, these 2 guys, when they've met, the under is hit 4 times. And if you just look at in terms of how this game should set up, going to be a lot of runs. I just don't think the pass catchers are going to be out there too much. Give me Boston Scott. Give me all these guys in the backfield. So under.
Couple of experienced teams, clubs that have won Super Bowls recently as well. We'll see what happens. That'll do it for us in the DK Sportsbook's betting angles for Seahawks, Eagles.
Closing this thing down with this crew, DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler and the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels hitting Sunday's second wildcard game. Need your top picks for the Seahawks-Eagles game. So who's your captain pick for this one, Jeff?
Don't shake your head at me, Reed.
Reed's done already.
That's intrigue to the show. Is Jeff going to make it back for the segment? Is he not?
Ooh.
I like DK Metcalf here for my captain. You're saving a little bit of money, and I feel like there's a lot of players here that you can pay up for, and you're going to want to fit in. So DK Metcalf saves you salary, and I feel like he brings you just as good upside as some of the other main players in this game. Look, again, you're going back against a Philadelphia Eagles secondary that allowed massive games over the last month of the season. Devontae Parker, Darius Slayton, Terry McLaurin. DK Metcalf fits in that group just perfectly to me. I mean, again, he's a player who's caught 7 touchdowns in his rookie season. Yes, he didn't exactly end the season strong, but, again, Philadelphia bottom 10 team in terms of allowing fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Somebody on this receiving core for Seattle is going to go off. I really like the shot here for Metcalf to post a big game. So I think he makes for a good upside play in GTPs.
Reed, who is your captain?
Yeah, we were talking earlier today this morning that we do want Jeff in studio. You're the second best person on this panel that I want in studio. We need Rosalie first, then you,
I'm coming
Jeff.
to Boston. I'm making it happen.
Yes.
Absolutely. But look, Jeff, you're the jack of all trades, master of none. We know you were just on the hockey segment and you had to put on your football hat, so I completely get it. But it's always the same that you take off your mic and then you put it back on anyway. Carson Wentz is the guy that I'm going to be captaining. Carson Wentz, this is a tale of 2 cities, man. This guy was terrible at the beginning of the season. And now, look, all it takes is that all of his pass catchers, every single one of them in the wide receiver core have to go out and be injured for him to actually perform. In the month of December, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception, which is not the Carson Wentz that we saw last time these teams met. He had a career high 5 turnovers in that game. But look, through the last 4 games, he's at 30 completions, and he just keeps on rolling. And he's throwing to guys like Greg Ward and some of these other no-names that are coming back. Like Nelson Aguilar is still not practicing, and so he's going to still have this crew out there. He's been performing extremely well. So give me Carson Wentz as my captain.
Rosalie, your captain, please.
I'm going the QB on the other side. It's Russell Wilson for me. I expect this is going to be a really low-scoring game. Russell Wilson, when these two teams met a few weeks ago, back in Week 12, only had 11.5 fantasy points. That's not Wilson-esque, right? I expect that there's going to be a progression from Wilson in this playoff game. It's a different time for Wilson during the playoffs. So, I'm expecting him to have a better game. Plus, you have to remember, those running backs are hurt. I think he's going to take a lot more on himself. He's going to be calling his own number a lot more. Plus, he does, unlike Carson Wentz, he does have wide receivers that can catch the ball and tight ends that can catch the ball. So I like Russell Wilson in my captain spot here. I don't think it's going to be a huge scoring game for anybody. So I'm going to take the sure bet, the highest floor, which is Russell Wilson.
All right, Reed, who would you like to stack with your captain, Carson Wentz?
Dallas Goedert. I feel like I sound like a broken record if you were watching all the previous promos that we were just running. But Goedert, look, Zach Ertz is most likely not going to play this game. He hasn't been cleared for contact in practice, even though he's out there in a limited fashion. You see some videos or still shots from beat reporters that you have Zach Ertz on the field practicing. But out of reason, I just don't think that they're going to have him roll out there. But even if he is, look, we've seen Dallas Goedert, even with Zach Ertz in the game and in the lineup, perform extremely well. He only has 1 less total touchdown on 48 less targets over the entire season. Dallas Goedert is the guy. And if you look at the Seahawks, they're second best for opposing tight ends in DK fantasy points given up per game. So I like Goedert in this spot.
All right, Rosalie, who are you pairing with Russell Wilson?
I'm pairing who Jeff talked about earlier, DK Metcalf. I've liked this rookie a lot this year. I love the way he's built. He's my type of wide receiver. And when you look at Philly, they give up the most fantasy points to the perimeter receivers on the year. He had 12 targets last week, which tells me that he's really in the groove now with Russell Wilson. So I think that most people are going to be on Lockett in this matchup. But Philly's pretty good against the slot. They're actually really good against the slot. Don't let up a lot of fantasy points there. So I'll take DK Metcalf. I like watching him just go up and get the ball, and he's really good at that. So I think Russell Wilson, you see him when he gets into trouble, he's looking for DK. So am I.
All right, Jeff, who are you pairing with DK Metcalf?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what DK Metcalf can do in this game. I really feel like these undersized corners of Philly are going to have no chance. And again, Rosalie and I are obviously on the same page. I'm just going with Russell Wilson to pair him with. I just like taking the risk with Metcalf at captain. Obviously, it's more of a boom or bust strategy, but Russell Wilson here should eat, so to speak. Again, the Philly defense has been effective in spots when they've been able to get pressure on the quarterback. We saw that last week against Daniel Jones. Russell Wilson's too mobile, really, in my opinion, for this D-line to necessarily cause as much havoc as they did last week. And if they're not getting Russell Wilson down or putting him down like 4 or 5 times in this game, it's going to be tough because he's got these downfield targets now. And I do feel like it's a game where Seattle will probably have to pass a little bit more given Philly's stout run defense. So definitely get a piece of Russell Wilson.
All right, where can we find some value here, Rosalie?
Yeah, I agree with what Jeff was saying. The thing that I worry about with Philly is whether or not they're really going to be able to score a lot of points. I think, Reed mentioned earlier, Carson Wentz has been great over the past month. Yeah, look at who he's played. He's played garbage teams. He's played the Giants twice, Miami, Washington. This is a totally different team. Seattle's going to give him a lot more trouble. But I am absolutely willing to take $2K to take Deontay Burnett. He's of the practice squad that is now the Philly wide receivers. He was the most effective last week. He led the Eagles wideouts in yardage and finished second in receptions behind Greg Ward. So if I'm going to take anybody on Philly, I'm going to take the cheap versions, and that's Deontay Burnett.
All right, where are we going, Jeff, for some value?
I thought Rosalie was going to go where I was going to go, and that's the Seahawks D.
I thought about it.
I mean, again, I agree with what she said, though, about Carson Wentz. I feel like he's been beating up on weak teams, and I feel like eventually, the lack of receivers and help around him is going to get to him, and I think it's going to start this week and end this week for Philly as well. And this is a Seahawks defense who, on the road, they've been far more effective. They're averaging over 11 DK fantasy points in 8 road games this year. 22 turnovers versus just 10 at home. They've got more sacks in road games than at home as well. It's just a team that Pete Carroll, whenever they've gone on the road, they've had this chip on their shoulder. And I feel like, again, this week, especially, getting people doubting them a little bit and having to go on the road, even though they've been the more dominant team than Philly all year, I feel like Pete Carroll's going to have this unit up for this game. I definitely like them as a value pick here.
All right, Reed, value, please.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused on why Rosalie and Jeff think Seattle's defense is fantastic. The last 4 games, I get it, right? Seattle's lost 3 of the last 4 in a stronger division, but they've given up close to, or just under 420 total yards in the last 4 games. And so I get that the Eagles have been beating up on lesser teams, but Seattle's defense, and look, they've limped into the playoffs with injuries as well. They're not as substantial as what we've seen on the Philly side. But in terms of value, what I'm looking at is I'm clearly on the opposite side of these guys. I'm on the Eagles side. Is Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard he was active for last game, but he only had 1 snap. Now he's fully healthy since week 9. And if you look at the Eagles, they're 4th in red zone opportunities, scoring opportunities over the last 3 games in the entire NFL. And if you just look at this backfield, it's been a trio of Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and now putting in Jordan Howard. Like, Miles Sanders is supposed to play. The reports are saying that he is going to be active on Sunday, but I just don't know how active he's going to be. And you just look at the Seattle team. I mean, they give up red zone opportunities. Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, over the last 4 weeks have have total close to 8 or 9 red zone opportunities each. And so when you look at that, Jordan Howard at $3,600, he could get you that touchdown.
Okay, all right. Well, who are we going to be totally fading in this game? No, who did I just skip?
You didn't. You got it.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wrote this wrong in my thing. All right. Let's get you. Who are we totally fading in this one, Reed?
It's going to be beast mode. I mean, it's hard. I want him to do well. I really do. But it's going to be tough. I mean, his revenge tour or his comeback tour starts off pretty tough with San Francisco and now the Philly team. So I'm going to be fading Marshawn.
All right. What about you, Rosalie?
I'm fading Tyler Lockett. I mentioned it a little bit before how good Philly is against the slot receiver. And Tyler Lockett, he's this boomer bust guy. And at his price point, I think he has to be more consistent than that. You look at, he had 17 fantasy points last week versus San Francisco, but versus Arizona, he had 2.2. He goes either 20 or he goes under 10, under 5. And that's just not consistent enough for me. I think, again, we're going to see a lot more Russell Wilson calling his own number and more DK Metcalf. So, and even I'll disagree with Reed. I think that you'll see Marshawn Lynch on the goal line.
Jeff, talk to me. Who are you fading in Seattle, Philly?
Yeah, I don't really love the sort of lead running backs on either of these teams. I mean, if you're considering Marshawn Lynch the lead running back, I think he's got a better chance to pay off than Miles Sanders does. I mean, Miles Sanders to me is a clear fade here. Boston Scott, like 7 targets each of his last 4 games. I like Boston Scott in this game. I don't care who else is active for the Eagles at running back. They need him just from a pure, need perspective. They don't have any wide receivers. He's essentially been a wide receiver for them. So I like Boston Scott. And then Reed mentioned Jordan Howard. I think he's going to make a bit of a comeback in this game. You should see increased usage from him with Sanders banged up. I could see Sanders just maybe taking the Jordan Howard role of last week and just taking like 2 carries. So I think he's an easy fade. Lynch has a bit of a better shot at paying off because, like Rosalie said, they probably will march him out in goal line situations. But, it's a guy who came off the couch in his 2nd game. He's probably going to be a little bit hurting. And we saw at the end of the game, like, he doesn't really know the offense that well. It basically led to like a delay of game penalty. So you really wonder if maybe they'll just roll with Travis Homer here. So I'm fine fading these 2 guys on Showdown.
Seahawks don't give the ball to Marshawn Lynch in the goal line. Come on, we know that.
Come on, never happens.
Really? They did it twice last week.
Guys, I know what I did is I skipped a question, which was the question you were probably all hoping I would skip, which is any super value here under $1,000 that you think would be worth using in this game, Jeff?
I mean, it's the same as last slate, unfortunately. There just really isn't anyone I would even touch under 1,000 in this game. it's just the way it worked out. There's some interesting players under 4K, and like I said, the Seahawks D, but no one under 1K for me in this game like that.
Reed, do you agree?
There's one guy at 1K. It's Robert Davis. He's not under, and so I kind of cheated on this question. But it's kind of to the same logic that Rosalie was using. If you want to get a cheap option, get one of the pass catchers that is essentially a practice squad guy that gets the call up. He's going to be out there, in some sets. He doesn't run a ton of routes. But at $1,000, again, all you need is one of those fluke touchdowns. So if you're going to, I don't think you should. If you're going to, look at one of those guys.
All right, Rosalie, anybody, or are you just out like Jeff?
No, I like Richard Rodgers at $200. Reed was talking earlier about the tight ends. Seattle is not good against the tight ends. And you know what? If I'm going to take a $200 shot at somebody, Richard Rodgers on a Carson Wentz-led team that loves throwing to the tight end position with Ertz hurting and Goddard still in there, we've seen that a number of tight ends can score fantasy points on this Philly team. The last time these two teams met, 36.3 fantasy points to the tight end position. So Richard Rodgers.
All right, guys, bonus question here. We told you earlier in the show that DraftKings has launched some new achievements for the playoffs. One of these is the defense/special teams touchdown, which awards you if you draft a DST that scores a touchdown in any of the weekend's classic NFL contests. So before we go, which of this weekend's 8 defenses do you think are most likely to pick up a defensive score on Wild Card Weekend? Rosalie, start us off.
I was looking at this. I did like Seattle, but Philly does not turn the ball over enough for me. I'm going with New England. You know what? They have been dominant. They have scored a lot of defensive touchdowns. This is a playoff game. And even though I really like Tennessee in this game, and I think that Tennessee will win that game, I think that New England has a great shot. They have so many playmakers there on defense. So if I'm betting on somebody getting a touchdown, it's them.
Jeff, what are you doing?
Yeah, this is kind of going against my captain's pick. But again, I'm taking New Orleans here. And it's just a case of Kirk Cousins is probably going to be throwing the ball a lot in this game. And whenever a quarterback throws the ball a lot and gets in pressure situations late in the game, the pick six is heightened. And it's a loud dome, New Orleans. You always see the defense kind of dominate here. And they could towards the end of this game. So I think New Orleans is the defense most likely to get that big touchdown.
Reed, talk to me.
Yeah, Jeff hedging his bet there. I like it. I'm with them with the Saints. You look 7 sacks over the last 2 games, 4 turnovers, and 1 touchdown. So if you want that, get the Saints there because this team's going to be passing a lot in Minnesota.
All right, guys, that's a show. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for a special wildcard edition of The Sweat at 11:30 a.m. Again, we are going tomorrow, which is Saturday, not Sunday, at 11:30 a.m. We'll see you tomorrow.